Standard 3 of the 7 standards with regard to national accreditation refers to faculty performance, and here we want to match operations of the mission of the program with faculty performance. And this is obviously a central standard within national accreditation. So we're trying to match, again, the operations of the program with its mission, and we're looking at faculty performance in this regard. There's 3 dimensions to this standard. The first dimension has to do whether or not there's a qualified faculty in the program. Second dimension has to do with whether or not the program has faculty diversity. And the third has to do with the performance of the faculty with regard to the areas of research, scholarship, and service. So those are the 3 dimensions we're going to be talking about with regard to this standard. And we'll turn to the first one. Faculty qualifications. The site visit team needs to be able to determine whether or not the faculty's program are academically or professionally qualified to pursue the program's mission. And so in a minute or so, we'll be talking about these 2 dimensions, whether or not the faculty are academically or professionally qualified. It's the wisdom of NASPAA that faculty members can be qualified in those two ways. This long definition here of academically qualified faculty members refers to those who are from the traditional academic background in their determination of qualification. So a faculty member who holds a terminal degree related to his or her teaching responsibilities and has maintained their scholarship activities to support his or her teaching responsibilities is an indication that the faculty member is faculty qualified. And if the faculty member received their terminal degree in more than 5 years from the self-study, then they need to demonstrate currency in the field with regard to their area of scholarship. So as a site visit team reviews faculty members with regard to their academic qualification, if they've been teaching for over 5 years, you want some type of information that demonstrates that they're current in the field and with regard to their teaching and research and service to their communities. And the program should be able to give you and demonstrate how each of their faculty members are academically qualified. To advance the mission of the program, and it's very important that you that the site visit team sees how the program ties the mission of the program to these faculty qualifications. All academically qualified faculty will also use updated and demonstrate current knowledge of the field in their syllabus and practices. Professionally qualified faculty members are also a way in which faculty can be qualified and demonstrate qualification with accreditation. So a faculty member, a full-time faculty member who can be professionally qualified by virtue of having outstanding professional experience directly relevant to the program responsibilities. In general, a professionally qualified member will have a graduate degree relevant to the professional experience of his or her responsibility. And professionally qualified faculty engage in professional community service in the area which supports his or her teaching. A professionally qualified faculty certainly may publish professional work or practice relevant to and relevant writing related to his or her area of teaching. But all professionally qualified faculty will also use updated class syllabus that demonstrate this current knowledge and technique. So one can see that you can be both academically qualified, traditionally through scholarship activities and terminal degrees, as well as professional qualifications. And this is also full-time faculty members who have outstanding professional experience and also have graduate degrees that support this area of inquiry. Now, the key part to understanding whether or not the program as a whole is achieving whether or not the full-time faculty members are teaching within the program has to do with a couple rules. One is the 75% rule, and that means that 75% of all the nucleus faculty should be academically qualified. Recall now that the nucleus faculty are those who have substantial determining influence on the program, And that those are the core players or core participants and core faculty in designing and carrying out the program with the students. The definition of evidence here has to do with 75% of all the nucleus faculty listed in the program will have to be academically qualified. There's also a second rule with regard to faculty quality, and that is the 50% rule, whereby 50% of all the courses taught in the program are by full-time faculty members. Note that this is not nucleus faculty, but full-time faculty members. And that 50% of all the courses delivered that require competencies are taught by qualified nucleus faculty members. Now notice that says nucleus faculty members. So the rule, 50% rule, is dual. It has dual. All program courses to be taught by full-time faculty members. 50% are to be taught by full-time faculty members. And those that have required competencies, 50% are taught by nucleus faculty members. So those are the distinctions that COPRA will be using to identify whether or not there's evidence of program faculty quality. And this is the standard by which is used to identify whether or not qualified program faculty are utilized within the program. Now we can take a look at faculty qualification questions that the site visit team member might wish to investigate. First is whether or not the faculty selection is mission driven. And that ties back to standard 1 about following your mission, following the program's mission, and whether or not faculty are chosen for that reason. And does the program actually hire appropriately trained and credentialed faculty members? And that could be demonstrated through the records of their VITAs and so forth. And do faculty qualifications match the program courses? In other words, are those who train in particular areas of study or those who are professionally qualified in particular areas, are they actually the ones that are teaching the courses in those areas? That brings us to the second dimension of the second substandard of faculty performance, and that has to do with faculty diversity. And here that standard is simply that the program will promote diversity in a climate of inclusiveness through its recruitment and retention of faculty members. There's ways in which diversity planning can assist the program. And COPRA has determined that in assessing the diversity process, that there needs to be an individual plan of the program in order to assess whether or not they're achieving it. But there are 3 dimensions of this diversity planning that we want to talk about. The first has to do with faculty, the second has to do with students, and the third has to do with overall curriculum. So let's go back and deal with faculty first. And here there needs to be demonstration that there's a recruitment process that seeks diversity through its outreach, its development of its pools, the development of its short list and eventual offers. The retention of faculty is also important here, both of current faculty and its history in terms of holding on to faculty that are diverse and in the program. And then there has to be a climate of support and inclusiveness that is recognized within the program. So that should establish then some of the key components of faculty diversity planning. With regard to students, very similar processes are in place, and the site visit team should be looking at records of outreach activities, pool of students that they're selecting from, as well as the admission process and whether or not they're meeting the diversity goals of the program with regard to student recruitment. With regard to retention, support processes with regard to advising, graduation and placement are also important, obviously with regard to meeting these requirements. Graduation, for example, has to do with graduation rates over a period of time and how quickly students can graduate, and is there any differentiation among any of the student groups. And placement, also a very similar outcome, as whether or not placement is taking place. And then finally, whether or not there's a climate of inclusiveness and diversity that the students are recognized in terms of its approach. And then finally, in the curriculum coverage outcome and embraces diversity, inclusivity. Learning outcomes begin to measure that. One can look at standard 5 for some of the learning outcomes and the measurements associated with managing in a diverse organizational setting and public settings, and whether or not this information is informing the program as how well they're doing with regard to meeting the standards of inclusiveness as well as diversity. So these are the 3 components that one can look at, as a site visitor might look at, both how is the faculty recruited and retained, the climate that they're working in, how students are recruited and retained, and the climate that they work in, as well as the curriculum. Those 3 components then make up for the diversity planning that should be evident within the program. The third part of the standard having to do with performance, it has to do with performance regarding research, scholarship, and service. This is a very important component of this standard, as it asks that program faculty members produce scholarship and engage in professional community service activities outside of the university appropriate to the program's mission, their stage of careers, and expectations of their university. So this is an important component dealing with how well the faculty members of the program are doing with regard to research, scholarship, and service. So what is it that the COPRA really wants to know about Standard 3? They want to know how the nucleus faculty engaged in the profession. They want to know, does the student diversity plan promote inclusivity, inclusiveness, recruitment, and retention? And COPRA wants to know, are faculty staying current in the field? And how do diversity efforts support the program mission? These are questions that can be examined in a number of ways by the site visit team, through interviews with students, interviews with faculty members and administrators, and interviews with, if there's a advisory board that you're willing to work with in the interview process, they might be able to respond to these questions, in addition to other evidence that the program might be able to give you with regard to faculty productivity and student productivity. So that has to do with the standards 3 of NASPAA.
NASPAA would like to thank Jack Meek of the University of Laverne for providing training on Standard 3.